in terrorism, in particular in Balochistan last week. Senator Anwar-ul-Haq Kakar, the former caretaker Prime Minister of Pakistan, is joining us. Senator Kakar, let's bring the solution in, the resolve in. Starting from when you were in government and there was this protest from Balochistan all the way to Islamabad, there was a committee, I believe, who met the protesters, and something must have been agreed between the both parties. And now the Interior Minister told the reporters in Lahore that the decision to launch the Azm-e-Istehkam operation in Balochistan was a tricky matter. Can you reflect on what happened when you were in charge and what is happening now?
Let's take everything bit by bit. There are protests by different so-called civil society activists. In my opinion, I feel there are, in the garb of, they masquerade as a civil society activist, and they actually become the mouthpiece for these terrorist organizations. What they do talk about is mostly about the procedural rights of these terrorists and militants, which at some time has some basis, and at time it is quite baseless. But they're more focused on propaganda rather than raising awareness on civil rights issues or human rights issues, for the matter. For the larger province interest. Why I'm saying so? These particular individuals, whenever it comes to the militants and operations against them, they would raise certain questions to make all those lawful actions against them dubious. And when the unarmed citizenry, which either belongs to outside the province of Balochistan or the people of Balochistan but who do not subscribe to the militancy, when they get eliminated, when they get targeted, they are mum and silent, they muzzle. They don't even talk about that. Once the social pressure comes, then the maximum position they would take that they believe in the rule of law. Well, of course, everyone believes in the rule of law, but when some innocent blood is shed, genuinely the civil activist, I presume, would raise the issue and would demand from the state and the government to take action, lawful action, against all those militants. But it does not come from them. So that's why the governments do see such activists, that they are the one who masquerade as a peaceful protesters, but who are actually advancing the agenda of the militants. They have got the same goal in changing the geography of Pakistan, undoing the geography of Pakistan. One takes the so-called activism role. They pose as activists, they pose themselves as peaceful activists, which, yes, in this case, they do not resort to violence, but they don't need it because their brethren are doing it in the name of BLA and Majid Brigade and BLF, so on and so forth. So they become the people who confuse the entire narrative within the province and at the national scale, and the militancy is carried on by the militant outfits in the form of these groups. That's how I clearly see them.
Okay.
The current government, I am not privy to the information, what is their plan, what is their strategy, but yes, I do agree that we need a holistic approach. First of all, the correct diagnosis of the situation, then the prescription can be debated. If we do not agree on the diagnosis, or if there is a wrong diagnosis, then no matter what sort of remedy and mitigation anyone would suggest, it wouldn't work.
Well, I totally agree with you, but do you see a resolve out there? Because the kinetic operations have been going on since ever. It's true that Balochistan is a very difficult terrain. It's true that in such a place, security lapses would happen. But something is missing here.
I think so. The basic understanding is missing. Even this statement that the kinetic operations are going on for ages is absolutely untrue. Well, periodically, yes. But this is what is required, consistency. We have been talking about consistency. The nature of non-state warfare is that they come and they attack you periodically. And if you give the knee-jerk response and just respond to the attacks whenever they occur and then leave it, it would be unattended. And this is one of the reasons that we lack smart kinetics, which I would call it. The consistent cleansing of all these militants from the mountainous terrain where they hide, where they reside, where they plan, where they come on the main highways to execute. And if we do not have a hot pursuit, which we haven't, I think so, this would continue for quite a long time.
What I'm understanding from what you have said is that that is exactly what the current army chief has said, that there is a need for intelligence-based operations, something that is periodic as well and something that is based on intelligence, rather than we displace the entire population and create another mess. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Population, I mean, when I'm referring to smart kinetics, that's what exactly I mean. The majority of the population, I would say between 95 to 98% of the Balochistan province population is against these militants. How could we target that population who is already on the side of the state? And they want these militants to be eliminated. So you have to differentiate between the two when it comes to the kinetics and have an immaculate planning and execution both.
Yeah, so you said there is a need of a holistic approach, and that is exactly what is missing. For example, in a conflict zone, once the area is cleared from any kind of militants, there has to be a civil governance in sight. So bit by bit, you try to develop that area so that there is a civil writ and then there is a security writ in place as well. But since 2 decades, this has not happened. What we see is that some elders from some tribes of Balochistan are always sitting in the parliament, but we rarely see them talking about the real plight of their people and these problems. Do you think that the leadership crisis is also there that has to be blamed?
Well, there is an nuance to that too. Yes, partially I would agree with this assessment, but there is a civil government right now. There has been a civil government in the past. The problem with those governments is not that the area is not in their control as it used to be in, let's say, in erstwhile Fatah. That would be apple and oranges. In the situation of Balochistan, the territory is in your control. The writ is there. These militants, they are hiding somewhere in the mountains. They come down on the highways, in the towns. They commit this disruption and terrorist acts, and they run away. But at the same time, the civilian structure is there. The civilian government is there. The issue is of poor governance, and the poor governance at times contribute towards enhancing this insurgency, and it does provide a conducive environment where the supply chain of the new recruits is available to them.